that we have several unofficial team members on the criminal justice team, one of which is the one who's barking. So okay.
Okay, so I really apologize about that. Very uncertain sometimes when, the Amazon guy shows up. So apologize. So back to the 11.15 waiver implementation. We are moving forward with this with our partners, Healthcare Policy and Financing, Medicaid Agency. Right now, the status is that we are waiting for the federal authority to move this forward. We don't have a for sure go live date. So again, we thought we would be implementing this starting FY27. And we're still hoping that takes place. And we will keep you up to speed on what that looks like. And again, this is coverage for individuals for their medications, for some special services while they're incarcerated. So there's a lot of good stuff happening here, but more to come. I don't want to spend too much time here. I just wanted to give you a brief update that is happening, but we don't have a for sure go live date. And then you all probably are aware that the BHA launched the BOSOs just recently on July 1st. So just to kind of clear the air a little bit, I know there's a lot happening at the BHA in terms of that launch, and we are not going to be directly impacted this first year of implementation as it relates to the jails. We are just trucking along, moving things forward as is. And if we hear that we will be involved in any of that for year 2 or the second part of that rollout, we will keep you informed, and you'll hear from Becky and Kelly more details there. So I just wanted to let you know, just no direct impact this first year. It's strictly working with Signal and Rocky Mountain Health Plan to get these services rolled out, but nothing directly impacting the jails. I have a couple more things. We really want to encourage participation in the regional meetings with the consortium, and it looks like we had pretty good representation in the first 2 that took place in a couple of the regions. We have one more, if you can mark your calendars, if you're in the region of, or the counties of Eagle, Lake, Park, Pitkin, or Summit. They are having a regional meeting on October 17th from 1 to 4. So there is a link where you can register, and we'll go ahead and drop that in the chat as well. And it's just really helpful to kind of collaborate, understand what's happening there with all of the community partners in those regions. And so again, we thank you if you've participated in one of the other regional meetings in your area. They were really excited that some of the jail folks are jumping in. So it doesn't really matter if, what type of role you play in the jail. I think everyone could benefit from just that, community collaboration. So we will let you know more information for those continued meetings in the future as well. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank Alex for your dedication just with helping us improve our data systems. I know not everybody is super involved in the data aspects of your work. And it's really tricky and confusing sometimes and a little tedious. But we hired Alex to really just help kind of change that landscape for us, because we really didn't have a good handle on that, to be completely transparent. And we believe that data is really what's going to drive improvement in our programs. So we're just super excited that Alex was able to come on board. So he is super approachable and someone you can ask questions to directly. He has lots of experience beyond just data. So don't hesitate to reach out to him if you have any questions around your programs, or just anything even beyond that, more innovative that you're thinking outside the box. He's got a lot of ideas, and we're hoping that we can put those into action here in the next couple of years. So thanks, Alex, again. We appreciate you, and we're glad you're here. So All right, I think that's all I have. Thanks so much for your time, everyone. And sorry about the loud barking.
That's okay. We've all been there. Did anybody have any questions specifically for Danielle or anything related to what she just spoke about? Okay. Hearing none or seeing none, I am going to pass it over to Alex, and he's going to present and discuss some things related to Civicor, the contract monitoring tool, and a few other things. So, Alex, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Danielle. Thanks for the shout out. I really appreciate it. Before I kind of jump in everything, I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you. I can't do my job unless you're all doing your jobs. And so, you know, it's a group effort, it's a team effort, and the quality of our data is a reflection of the quality of those that are submitting the data. And I really appreciate your patience and working with me when I'm in these meetings and saying, hey, we got to do this, we got to change this, we got to think about this. I know that's a lot, but it's really like we're seeing those outcomes on the other side really improve. And we're really strengthening our position as a program, which really helps in times of uncertainty, especially when it comes to things like funding. And so just keep that in mind that, you know, we're all in this together, and if we do our jobs right, we're going to reduce the amount of, you know, of loss that we're going to experience after these budget cuts and things like that. We're trying to protect ourselves from that, right, to a large extent. So thank you all for participating in that endeavor for sure. Couple of things. So I wanted to remind everybody. So I just earlier this week, I sent out the quarterly survey. So if you all remember, many moons ago, the monthly contract monitoring tool was longer. And what we did is we took a lot of those questions out and we put those in the quarterly survey. So instead of having to answer some of those questions once every month, now you only have to answer it 4 times a year. And so we did that to kind of lighten the load with the monthly contract monitoring tool. One of the issues though, so for the Q3 survey, the last quarterly survey, we only had 18 people submit a response for that, which is less than half out of 46 that were sent out. So that's a really low response rate. Those questions are really important to us. They help with the program management aspect for Kelly and Becky. They help with us understanding our role and what we can do better, what kind of technical assistance we can provide, right? Those comments are really, really useful to us. So please make sure that you're doing the quarterly surveys. I try and give a little extra time. So this one went out on the 15th of July and it's not due until the end of August 29th. So I try and give you 45 days basically to kind of do that, which is a long time. And I do that so that you have time to set aside to finish that. But I would really ask that you do that because it's a contract requirement, it's a deliverable, and it's something that we really need for program management. So if you have any questions about that, Kelly just earlier this week sent out a PDF with all of the monthly contract monitoring tools and all the quarterly survey questions. So you have a copy of those so that you can work on it before submitting. If you can farm that out to other people on your team if needed. But if you need anything else from us in that regard, let us know. Okay. One of the next thing I want to talk about. So this happened a little while ago, but I want to remind everybody. So we had a kind of change to Civicor where we added a new option. You know, before it was you could refer somebody and then they wouldn't be admitted if they declined services or they were ineligible to participate or if they were released early. There's now a fourth option, which is for discharge services only. And so we did that when thinking about, you know, what's the core of what JBBS does? Well, it's providing clinical assistance. It's providing actual guided clinical assistance, and discharge services, although they are important, do not really fall under that kind of clinical heading, right? And so we added this new option. If you meet with somebody once or even twice, and all you're doing is talking about what services they can receive outside of the facility, that's fine. First of all, it's fine to do that, but we don't want to consider that an admission to JBBS if you're just talking to somebody about what they should do when they get out, right? The name of the program being Jail-Based Behavioral Health Services. The core of what we're doing is providing these services in the jail, these clinical services that are going to help people get better, improve their behavioral health outcomes. And so before, I think a lot of people were classifying anybody who was discharged, just getting discharge services as being admitted. And we prefer that that's not the case. So the benefit of that is you don't have to give those people a gain. If they're just getting discharge services, you don't have to give them a gain. You can if you want to, right? And we've said this before, you can give gains to whoever you want, right? But we only require it for people that are formally admitted to JBBS, right? As in, admitted via Civicor, they have an admission date in Civicor, that kind of thing. So it's a minor change, but it's an important change, and it's going to really help with us demonstrating the efficacy of the program, right? Because although discharge services are important, somebody who receives services, they're probably less likely to come back than somebody who just gets discharge services. And so we want to pull that out of that category when we're looking at recidivism, and it should help improve our recidivism rates overall. Okay. I also want to remind everybody, so the gain assessment can be done every 90 days. We recommend that you do it every 90 days. So if you have somebody in your facility for 180 days, you should give them 3 gain assessments, one on day 1, one on day 90, and one on day 180, right? And the idea behind that is that now you have a record over time. If somebody gets a gain and they get released, they come back 6 months later, give them another gain. Now you have 2 points in time to compare. If they say the exact same thing on the second gain that they said on the first one, then you know what you need to work on. If they say completely different things on the second gain, then you have an idea, maybe things have changed. Maybe they've had a traumatic brain injury in the past 6 months that wasn't on the previous gain. Well, that might affect how you're going to approach treatment options. So that gain assessment is there, again, primarily for you all to use as a tool to guide the treatments that you want to provide to people. And so that 90-day assessment is helpful in that regard. To that end, there's a new gain assessment that just came out in July. The only new thing, there are a couple of questions about TBI, traumatic brain injuries, on there. We wanted to add those in there because that's knowledge that we think is going to be useful to you, right? You may change your treatment options because of that. You may change your treatment plan because of that. You may not. But either way, it's better to know than not know. So we went ahead and added that to the gain. The gain now includes all 5 of the major categories that we're concerned with in JBBS, whereas before it just had 4 out of the 5. So TBI checks that last box. One of the drawbacks when you run the report now, it's only going to report on the questions that Chestnut has. That TBI question is not going to be in the report, so you'll have to make a note of that separately, but you still are asking about it and you'll know about it. So that's really important. There is no Spanish version yet, but Kelly has reached out to Chestnut and is asking them to translate those few questions so that we can get a full Spanish version of that. So my apologies that they're going to charge us extra to do that. So we'll work on that. But my apologies that we didn't have one right out the gate, but we're working on getting a Spanish version of that new assessment for you. At the very least, you can use the old assessment. And if you have to, you have to use Spanish, you can use the old assessment and either translate those TBI questions yourself or don't ask those questions and skip them on the online version of the assessment. Okay. Because we understand, that a lot of participants are going to be Spanish only speakers. Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I was just going to say in regards to that, so we can't make changes to the current, I did hear from Chestnut, we can't make changes to the gain to like the way they have it set up right now. So what you can do is with those Spanish questions, and I'm happy to translate and send those out to everybody, but you can still ask those, and it's just they're not going to be scored in the overall gain assessment. And again, they can't add them into what's already what they already have. Basically, it's kind of a, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll get you the I'll translate those questions for you all and send those once I get the go ahead from Chestnut that I can do that. It's just they can't make those, they can't do that as part of it because this was kind of a special thing we asked them to do. So anyway, once I get the go ahead, I'll do that.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for that update, Kelly. Yeah. So we will get on that. We'll make sure that you all have a copy of those Spanish versions of those questions because we recognize that's really important. Couple more things and then I'll be done and I'll pass off to the next person. On the monthly contract monitoring tool, there's a question about MAT and people transitioning to the community. And we've gotten some weird responses on that in the monthly contract monitoring tool. And so I just wanted to give you kind of my 2 cents on this, which is, for anybody that's in your MAT program, you should have something set up upon release for like a list of resources that they can continue treatment in the community. If you do that, then that counts as providing somebody information before they transition to the community. So you can count them on the monthly contract monitoring tool. I think one of the best approaches is to put together like a 1 to 2 page handout and have a quick, I mean, as long as you want it to be, but at least 5 to 10 minutes, hand them this piece of paper and say, here are resources in the community where you can continue getting MAT treatment. Number one, that's really important for the legislative requirements. But number two, from a practical standpoint, if we're putting somebody on MAT and then we release them without resources in the community, the chances that they relapse are very high, right? That's literally putting people's health at risk if we're not doing that. And so I would strongly, strongly recommend that you put together a brief resource that kind of summarizes resources in the community, and that you give the to people upon release and have a quick conversation with them about it. And if you do that, then you can count them on that monthly contract monitoring tool. So if you're doing it right, if you do that process, if you do it like that, the MAT transition question is the same as how many people were in MAT and got released this month. So if you had 50 people on MAT and then 25 got released this month, if every single one of them is getting that handout and getting a 5 to 10 minute conversation about how to get more resources, then the answer on the monthly contract monitoring tool is 25, because 25 people were on MAT that were released this month. So it's really easy question to answer if you have a process in place that's automatic. Everybody who's in MAT upon release gets this handout and a 5 to 10 minute conversation about resources upon release. So that checks our box, right, for our requirements, but it also helps these people and sets them up for success upon release. If you have any questions about that transition thing, or if you need any help putting together a resource or something like that, let me know. We're happy to help with that. But it's really important that we start doing that. That should help our numbers, but it should also help these people who are in the MAT receiving MAT treatment. To that end, right? So last year, if we look at 2024 versus 2025, there was a lot more money available for MAT last year than there was this year. We're currently pitching to try and get money for JBBS going forward. And one of the things that we wanted to ask you is if you have any narratives or explanations or anything that you want to say about losing that money or not having dedicated MAT funds like you had in 2024 and having to pull it out of your JBBS budget, right? We lost about, I think, 2.2 million between 2024 and 2025 that was dedicated to MAT treatment. Now you have to pull that from your general JBBS funds or your SUD funds. So if any of you has something to say about that, maybe the hardships that it's created or something like that, we would enjoy hearing from you about that, because we're going to put that narrative in our pitch to get more money, right? And so if we're able to say, hey, we had various facilities struggled mightily because of this loss of funds, that really helps our position. And we have data to back this up. But it also, that data is in the aggregate. It helps to have people explain how this has been hard for their program. So go ahead, Cassandra. Sorry.
Do you want our providers to also type something or write something out?
Sure. If anybody who has something to say about that change, anybody who has something to contribute, yes. And send it to Kelly or Becky or myself. We'll collect all that together. We'll put that on our report. But yeah, anybody in your facility, could be the sheriff, could be the undersheriff, could be the provider, it could be the JBBS staff or program coordinator. Anybody who wants to say something about that that change in funding, please let us know, and we'll collect that together and put that in the pitch. My only caveat is trying to keep it short. We don't have enough room to put paragraphs upon paragraphs of explanation in there, but a short 2 to 3 or 4 sentences that really explains how your facility has struggled or how your program has struggled because you lost those funds would be really useful for us when we pitch this to the funding boards. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question, Cassandra?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's the big stuff. Last thing I wanted to mention, and this is not necessarily directly related to JBBS, but I work closely with the Health Information Exchange, the HIE people. Okay. Danielle, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to provide some clarification too on what Alex just mentioned. Ideally, and I know this is short turnaround, I'm going to be presenting or proposing for funding for FY27, and we have to submit that report by August 1st. So I know this is a short turnaround. We can still use the information for our presentation that I'll be doing probably the end of August, but ideally if you have any feedback before August 1st so we can compile that into our request, that would be wonderful. But again, no pressure because I could always present it formally at the end of August. So thanks everyone.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Danielle. And for any of that stuff, I would just send it to me because I'm working on that proposal directly. So, you can CC Kelly or Becky, or you can send it to them and CC me, but just make sure I'm on that email somewhere and I'll be the one that's collecting that together and kind of formatting it for the report. So yeah, August 1st, if you can. And again, even if it's just a couple of sentences, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 sentences, that's tremendously helpful. And if we get a lot of those responses, then I'll be able to put those numbers together and say, hey, 40% of our facilities are saying this was a huge issue for them, right? And they had to work really hard to overcome this. Go ahead, Kelly.
I was just going to say, like, we know this has had wide-reaching impacts. So please be, honest and frank in your, if you choose to provide us with anything. And again, like Danielle said, she is presenting. I would just have it. I would probably do this sooner than later, just so it doesn't kind of fall off your radar. But yeah, anything will help, and so we want them to hear from you all because we know this has had very far-reaching impacts.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Quick pitch just for the HAE. So I work with the Health Information Exchange. If you're not familiar with it, if somebody comes in your facility and they're on a certain medication or they've seen a certain provider, and you can access this Health Information Exchange and get information about what medication they're on or who they've seen in the community. So it helps you with treating them, maybe not all behavioral health, but part behavioral health, part physical health. It's a really cool system. It's in most of the facilities in the state. And we've got a few of the people on the call today. So it just reminded me, if your facility is not using the HIE, or if you have concerns about it, please let me know and I'm happy to set up a meeting. We can talk through it, but it's really a useful mechanism in terms of continuity of care, right? Because we want to make sure we don't start from zero when somebody comes in the facility. And then when somebody gets released, we don't want the provider in the community to have to start from zero. And so this is a really great program that we run and we pay for, right? We pay for that access to that system so it doesn't cost you any money. And it's a really great platform for that continuity of care. So last thing, I'm just reading the chat, the quarterly surveys. So because of the quarterly surveys, you don't have to do an annual report. And I just wanted to remind you all of that. So, before in the years past, before I was here, you had to type up an annual report about what you did in your program. Well, because we have the monthly contract monitoring tool, because we do the quarterly surveys, because we have these monthly meetings, you don't have to do an annual report. But if we don't get those quarterly reports the way we're supposed to, or the meetings don't go well, or we're not getting good data, then we're going to have to go back to the annual report format. And I don't think you want that. And I don't want that. I don't think Kelly wants that. Becky doesn't want that. So just keep in mind, right, the stuff that we're asking you to do is there for a reason. And it helps you to where you don't have to do the annual report. We write the annual report for the whole JBBS program and share it with you all. And we're happy to do that, but I would much rather have that stay in place, that system stay in place, than have every single facility write an annual report at the end of the year. So just a quick reminder about that. All right. Does anybody have any questions about data stuff before I pass it back to Kelly to introduce our first presenter? Cassandra says, yeah, and monthly reports are way better than the annual report. Definitely. Yeah, go ahead, Tori.
Hi, this is actually Molly. Alex, I had a question about using the discharge planning. So if I take a specific client and I was only able to do discharge planning with them because of the amount of time they had left in custody, when let's say they get rearrested like 6 months later or a year later, so how am I to answer the question if they contact us earlier in their sentence and now I'm enrolling them and I'm looking at that question, have they been part of JBBS in the last 3 years? How am I supposed to answer that?
I would say no, because if they weren't formally admitted, if they didn't receive like clinical services, right? Which is like treatment planning, like that takes place in the facility. If you haven't met with them more than once or twice, then I would say no, they have not done JBBS just because they got discharge planning. And again, there's utility there. There's value in doing discharge planning, but it's not the same as like sitting down and walking them through and helping them with resolve other issues. So I mean, that's if you ask that and they're like, oh yeah, but I just had one meeting and it was discharge planning, then that would just be a no. No, they have not participated in JBBS previously.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And for those, anybody who's receiving those services, you're still going to count them on the monthly contract monitoring tool as being touched by JBBS dollars. We want to make sure we're accounting for all of the time that you're spending on anybody. Anybody who gets touched by JBBS dollars gets counted in that first question, but they don't, you put them in CivicCore, you click that button, it'll show up as referred but not admitted. You don't have to do a gain. It's a less arduous process in terms of the reporting to just put them in the monthly contract monitoring tool, add them in CivicCore real quick, and then say, hey, we just discharge services. That should take 5 minutes and you're done with them, as opposed to needing to do a gain, having to finish off the rest of the CivicCore profile. That will take 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes or more. So that's the other thing too, is it should reduce the amount of time that you have to spend on them, and you can really just focus on the discharge planning and moving on to the next person. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for your question, Molly. Appreciate it. Okay, any other questions before I turn it back to Kelly? Okay, great. Well, if anything comes up, as Danielle mentioned, always have an open door policy, always happy to meet, happy to answer emails. Want to make sure if you have any questions or concerns, we take care of that. And I don't want you doing things in a confused state and not understanding what you're doing. So please let us know. Always happy to work with you. And my door is always open. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I'll turn it back to Kelly to introduce our presenters.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate all your insight on this, and I would just echo what Danielle said. Alex has been clearly a tremendous asset to our team here, and it's just so nice to finally have usable data. It's nice to just kind of have everybody on the same page, everybody doing the same thing. So grateful to you, Alex. So thank you. All right, so we're going to hop into our first presenter of the day. Alexi, are you on?
And I am here, yes. Hi.
There she is. So Alex, I think you need to make Alexi a co-host, if you wouldn't mind. And then, so I put a description in the in our agenda, but I will let you speak for yourself, Alexi, and kind of introduce yourself to our group here, and kind of let everybody know what your agency has to offer. And I'll turn it over to you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen so you guys can see me, but not a huge fan of PowerPoints, but I am going to just give you a quick little PowerPoint. So hopefully it'll help. And okay. So my name is Lexi Silence. I'm an audiologist on the Front Range, but I have a mobile audiology practice. I actually got connected to Kelly via her sister-in-law, who's also an audiologist. And in the last several years, I've been doing a lot of veteran testing for incarcerated veterans. So I've been in and out of the prisons all over the country and even in Colorado. And I've noticed that it's really an unmet need for those veterans with hearing problems. And listening to Alex talk just now about the resources in the community, that's something else I see. So I'm going to touch on that as we go along. And let's see. So I've been an audiologist for 34 years, blah, 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 right? And I do a lot of testing. I worked with a lot of different populations. And currently right now, a lot of what I do is with veterans, but I just want to help people live their best lives and to have the best success that they can actually have. And hearing is a critical piece of the puzzle, because if you can't hear, you can't communicate, and hearing loss is associated with poor job skills, less income, and more violence. Okay, so I've seen a huge gap in inmate hearing healthcare, and I apologize for some of the formatting here. It got switched over. And this has been reported to me both from staff and inmates when I'm in the prisons. Right now, it's estimated that about 17 to 30% of inmates have hearing loss, as opposed to 9% of the population. So there's a significantly greater population within the prison system that has hearing loss. Colorado has one of the oldest and aging population of incarcerated people. And so therefore, it's estimated that it could even be upwards of 50% here in Colorado. There is no systemic screening process. There's nothing that is really set up within Colorado prison systems to address hearing needs that is consistent across the board. So some facilities do a better job than other ones. Recently, 2025 Disability Law Colorado had a settlement that mandates hearing aids and ADA compliant accommodations for deaf inmates. This is going to change what is needed and required within the prison system. And based on this settlement, there's going to need to be actual provisions for hearing care, hearing aids for all inmates that need those. One thing that I've seen is that hearing aids have been considered contraband. Some facilities have confiscated hearing aids from inmates. There's also concerns about security and things of that nature, which I'll get into in just a little bit. But ADA law, as you all know, requires equal access to all programs, and hearing loss hinders that without any sort of intervention. Now, when it comes to inmates and violence, there's not a ton of research, but there is research. 53% of inmates face annual violations. A lot of times it's due to miscommunication. If they're unable to hear roll call or staff members calling them, it's often considered that they're being disrespectful, subordinate, all sorts of things. It can also cause stress and tension amongst cellmates, if that's in your vicinity. So there's a lot of things that can go on there, but 53% of inmates face these annual violations due to hearing loss. Deaf inmates, while we're talking about hearing loss, deaf inmates in particular have a struggle with verbal orders. If they're unable to see, if they're not given written notes, because I know there can't be a personal communication from staff to inmates, then how are these deaf inmates or those with severe to profound hearing loss communicating if they're not aware that there's something that needs to be communicated? Hearing loss also emotionally contributes to frustration, frequent outbursts of emotional impact. And then research has shown that just even childhood stress can contribute to hearing loss. So if you're working with the psychological, mental aspect of a lot of these clients, inmates, they may also have hearing loss that needs to be addressed that may have perpetuated why they're in there to begin with. They're also prone, inmates in general, to have more of a history of abuse prior to being incarcerated. Physical abuse can often lead to hearing loss as well. Now, when you're looking at resources in the community and getting them back out into, quote, the real world, if they're not able to hear or communicate, it's going to limit the effectiveness of the programs that you're setting up if they're unable to fully understand and process everything that's been said to them. So reintegration, if they don't have hearing aids or their hearing loss, and tips and tricks to deal with lip reading, things of that nature, it's going to hinder job training, social integration, and it increases recidivism. It also is a barrier to employment. And we all know we want them to be viable citizens again and get out there and have jobs. So we want to give them the best chances of success possible. So what I'm sort of proposing, and I don't know what you currently have on board, it's kind of difficult to find information, but I don't believe that there's any sort of comprehensive audiology services within the facilities and then once they get out. So Alex, you were talking about the resources in the community and the MAT, and I think that's where things fall apart. I believe a lot of colleagues will go in and they're happy to give an inmate hearing aids and make a little bit of money, but then there's a lack of follow-up. What happens when the hearing aids aren't working? What happens if their hearing changes and the hearing aids haven't been readjusted for that? And what do they do when they get out of the system and they're back into their daily lives? Like, where do they go and what's affordable for them? So I'm sort of proposing a basic intake questionnaire. I don't know if it's possible or not, because again, I don't know all the ramifications of things within the facilities, but even just a quick questionnaire to kind of troubleshoot who might be at high risk for hearing loss that could then benefit from a hearing screening if you're not currently already doing hearing screenings at intake. I'm happy to come in. I have a mobile audiology practice, so I can go all over the state. And what I'm proposing, just to make it a viable type of thing, is quarterly at each facility, so that I'm in there and I can test within a reasonable time frame those that are high risk. If someone needs hearing aids, then I have comprehensive programs for hearing aids at affordable price points that we'll get into in a little bit, but are keep your bottom line healthy. And then outside support. So once they get out, if I become one of that, or my practice becomes a community provider for them, and maybe even goes to some of these different resource areas that might be set up so that they know that there's already ongoing support to address hearing aids once they get out for at least a limited time frame. That just helps to transition them better, if that makes sense. So coming into the facilities, I already have mobile equipment that is approved. It's boothless audiometers. So all I really need is a room with a desk and 2 chairs to test veterans and someone bringing them to me. It really only takes 30 minutes to go through a hearing test per veteran, so it's not super time consuming. I know there's a lot of schedules set up, and I'm willing to work with things or whatever we need to do. But again, it doesn't need to be this big space, this big drawn out type of thing. My communication's all HIPAA compliant, so we want to make sure that their privacy is important and maintained. And then training staff. Now, I know a lot of the nursing and medical staff doesn't want anything else on their plate, but sometimes just including them in the whole process and care just creates more unity and cohesiveness when it comes to the follow-up care with the inmates. The only, and I don't think it's really a big issue, but I know some of the facilities that I've been in, you know, some of the software, right, because of being online with programming hearing aids can be an issue. So I can always pre-program hearing aids before I even go into facilities, so that it isn't considered contraband or anything that's risky coming in. So having done that with the VA, it's already pretty easy and set up. So by creating sort of what I'm proposing is sort of a pilot program for a couple of months, just to see how this does and if it improves outbursts and behavioral issues with any of the inmates, is to start off with maybe just a few facilities that might have a higher need. But my proposed benefits would be enhanced rehabilitation and program participation, reduces recidivism. It's cost effective because of the bulk pricing that I can get, and it ensures ADA compliance. And some of the funding from this might potentially come from the Correctional Treatment Fund. I know that's something that can sometimes be tapped into. And then even maybe building into some of the budgets that you're looking at for future years. And happy to look at metrics, because I think we all need data in what we're doing and that it's working. And so tracking reduced infractions, program participation, how engaged are they, and satisfaction surveys from both staff and inmates. Okay, and these are just a couple of statistics. So deaf inmates themselves have 64% violent offense rate compared to 49% of regular normal hearing inmates. And I think that's a pretty big jump there. 17 to 30% of inmates have hearing loss. In Mississippi, it's estimated actually at 50%. And there was a study that came out in 2023 that when the majority of those were fit with hearing aids, the violent outburst went down by almost 25% within the facilities. So it was a big change. 53% of inmates face violations annually, and hearing loss itself increases recidivism. So I have a handout that I'll send to Kelly that you can look at, but I wanted to briefly go over hearing aids a little bit. And that's a big concern in the facilities, is that hearing aids are considered contraband for a lot of facilities if they're not aware of what they are. There's Bluetooth features on hearing aids nowadays, which might be a security risk. And so how do we choose hearing aids that don't have Bluetooth capabilities? So it reduces the security issues and what they actually need to function well. I've been in a ton of facilities that I'm seeing over-the-counter hearing aids being used. The problem with over-the-counter hearing aids is that they're not fit per that inmate's hearing loss needs, so they may or may not be beneficial. There's no follow-up care with those, and they tend to break down quite frequently. So with a mid-range hearing aid, by no means do inmates need high-end hearing aids, but a good mid-level hearing aid, generally in the private world, is going to cost you $4,000 to $6,000. With my pricing per inmate, you're looking at about $2,000, maybe a little bit less, depending on the bulk that I can do. But these would be specifically fit for the needs of the inmates. They can be readjusted if their hearing changes or gets worse. And then they do come with warranties, and again, my care coming in to service them quarterly. So it's all sort of built into a package. There are pros and cons with every kind of package, but I want to be the most useful to both the facilities and the inmates to give them what they need. And so I just think price-wise, what I've seen out there, what I've seen from some invoices into the facilities, there's a lot of money going out, or a lot of cheap hearing aids being purchased that don't do any good. So that's kind of what I had to kind of put in there. I see it a lot. Even if you think about your grandparents with hearing loss, and they start to get irritable and angry when they can't follow conversations or communicate, and they withdraw, they lash out, or they try to dominate. And in a place where there's a lot of egos and a lot of personalities going on, you don't need someone trying to dominate so that they can feel like they're part of what's going on. So I feel like addressing hearing loss is going to level the playing field and give them the best outlook for success. And like I said, I'll give Kelly some information to hand out if you guys are interested, and then sort of open it up if you have any questions.
Betsy, could you put your email in the chat so that folks know how to get a hold of you? And I don't think that it is commonplace in jails to screen for hearing loss. I don't know of anyone that is currently doing that. If any of you are, I would love to hear about what you do, or but I do wholeheartedly agree. This is such a important thing to look at. I mean, I know for anybody that suffers with any kind of hearing loss, it makes everything twice as hard. So imagine being in jail and trying to navigate, everything that goes on behind the walls and not being able to hear correctly or efficiently on top of that. So this is such great information, and I'm so grateful to anybody out there who's willing to come in and go behind the walls and help people with these types of issues. So does anybody have any questions? You can put them in the chat or raise your hand.
And thank you for your time. And Alex, you also mentioned the TBI. So TBI is a big piece of hearing loss. So many times TBIs will lead to hearing loss.
Well, I will look for that document, and once I get it, I will send it out to our program coordinators that are on the call, and I would highly encourage you all to see if you can build this connection, because I think it will be an invaluable tool for your folks to have who are struggling with this.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much for
the time, and you guys have a
Yes.
beautiful afternoon. Take care.
So much. All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That being said, we're going to hop right into our last presenter, last but not least, obviously. Alex Duncan from Hustle 2.0 is here. Some of you may be implementing Hustle 2.0 in your facilities currently. So we have had Hustle 2.0 present at our JBBS meetings in the past. And so we are glad to have them back. And Alex, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, we can. But now you're frozen.
Now you
At least not there. Uh-oh.
everything was fine for the full first half of the meeting. I saw him back there the whole time, and now when he has to present it, Murphy is the
Isn't that
line.
just the way
There we
it
go.
goes?
Sometimes it's a little key. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. And if is everything pulling up okay?
It is.
Great. So I'm Alex. I'm over at Hustle 2.0. I'm not the Alex who's been improving your data systems that everybody's been praising, but part of me wishes that I was for all of the thank yous that I've heard today. I want to be a little bit engaging today. So I don't know how many people use the chat feature pretty regularly. It is a great name. I would love to hear if you think that you're at the best jail on this call. Go ahead, type the name of your jail in the chat, and then one word that tells me how you're feeling today. Can everybody do that real quick if you know how to use the chat? Determined. Okay, that's great. Pueblo County. Okay. I don't know if that was Tori or Molly who said that, but I appreciate that. Douglas. Okay. Okay. Motivated. I like motivated. That's cool. Happy. I'm glad you're feeling happy. Driven, goal-oriented, productive. Good. I'm glad this feels productive. Well, I hope that everything that I say feels productive. If anything I'm sharing at all feels irrelevant, type it in the chat and say, "Hey, skip to the next part." I want to keep this relevant to all of you guys. And we're not having any sound problems still, right? You guys can all hear me. Okay, great. Let's see. Okay, excited and interesting. Okay, sweet. And can everybody see my screen? Okay, perfect. So what we are at Hustle 2.0 is we are a CBT program. And I'm sure that you guys Some of you are very familiar with some CBT, some of you have heard of it and maybe aren't super familiar. But the general gist of what we are is we help people to change their thoughts first, which then leads into a change of feeling and then into a change of behavior. And we do that, we try to do it as comprehensively as possible. So our programming is very broad over a lot of different topics, but mainly we go into anger management, addiction and recovery, violence prevention, coping skills, victim awareness, and there's a lot in regards to reentry. So that's the kind of gist of what we are. And I'm just going to walk through. I have a presentation. It should take maybe 10 minutes tops, but if any of you have questions, go ahead and just throw them in the chat. So our goal with CBT is to make it a lot easier to implement. Now, I don't know if you guys are running CBT, but we're aware that some CBT programming is really expensive. It all happens in person. There's a lot of one-on-one with therapists or small groups that get together. So when you have a jail that's a lot larger, it's a little bit harder to be able to get that to every single person. So our goal is to make programming that's the easiest that you've ever had to implement. Everything we do is in cell so that you're able to give it to as many people as makes sense for your program. And then to save money so that you're able to give it to as many people as possible. So as far as who we are and how long we've been doing this, here, let me read this real quick. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we'll talk. So we've been doing this for the last 7 years, and we've been doing this with 20,000 plus participants over these years, and we are working with several JBBS gels. We've actually got these 4 logos. I put them up so you guys could see and feel proud of yourselves a little bit, and it's been awesome. We have a quote from Jennifer Joe, who is working at Boulder County Jail. But I believe, Jennifer, are you on the call right now?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you mind sharing? I'm curious, just like general, like how impactful has this program been at your jail? Can you tell everybody a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, this program has been great in our jail. Especially we use it for like an independent study. A lot of our participants want to continue it when they do the first book. It helps also as a supplement to JBBS programming too, because it's in some way we incorporate it into kind of our curriculum. But it's been great because we've also seen a decrease in assaults on staff, or just assaults in general, and behavioral issues, because I was keeping some stats on that. And especially since we started in our maximum module, we've definitely seen a pretty huge improvement with a lot of those, and also making hooch and stuff. We've seen a decrease in that too. So it's just it does keep them busy, and it's a lot of self-reflection for them too. So it's been great. It's been great for our jail.
I'm curious, are there any particularly individuals or maybe a group of people that you've seen go through the program that it's affected in any way?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple actually have completed the program. They've gotten their certificates through the whole curriculum, and then they received their certificate for 3 credits to Southern Utah University, because once they complete the whole curriculum, that's what they receive. So we've actually had some career criminals that have participated in the program receive that, and has given them inspiration that when they do get out, because some of them have been sentenced to DOC for quite a while for some pretty serious charges, they would like to pursue that, and it helps that they already have the 3 credits to Southern Utah University, so it gets them a head start, and these 3 credits go towards leadership and management.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. I don't mean to pick on every single person that we work with, so I won't call on everybody. Damien, I believe, if you're on the call as well, you said you might be wanting to share a couple things too. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Could you give everybody just an overview of, you know, if there's any particular person who who this program has helped change? We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, we've had quite a few that have been successful in the program. One in particular is kind of one of those revolving door inmates, been in and out of jail quite a few times. They have a part of the way I run the program is you have to actually be major incident free for 30 days before you even start the program. So it's kind of a goal for them to not be causing any issues. And that can be particularly difficult for this person. And they were able to not only stay out of trouble, they were able to completely change their classification. Almost, I think they got all the way down to minimum from maximum before they got on the
Wow.
program. And they are waiting right now on the grade for book 2. They've mostly stayed completely out of trouble, just kind of some mental health here and there, but they have been doing amazing compared to previous visits.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And that's our goal. You know, not every single person who goes through a program is going to have their life turned around completely. But if we're able to provide something that turns somebody's life around and helps them to stop committing violent acts or stop having substance use as an issue in their life and to get them on their feet, that's the goal. And that's what we want to help you guys with. So to walk you through what that kind of looks like on our end is our product team has been doing this for a very long time. We've got 20 plus years of experience that go into correctional programming. We work with criminologists as well as trauma experts and addiction and recovery experts to make sure that our programming is comprehensive and to make sure that it really works. The secret sauce, if you will, though, is that one of our key feelings about a lot of programming is that it can be maybe, let's just say some programming can maybe be boring or maybe feel like you're reading a college textbook. So we want to meet people where they're at, and we do that through a few ways. One is that all of the language we use in the program is written at their level, and it kind of sounds like you're talking to your cellmate. It's like, hey, yo, like, why are you doing this today? Yeah, things like that. But it also includes peer-to-peer case studies. So for example, in our programming, we have 160 stories of real people who have served very difficult time telling their story of, hey, this is how I turned my life around. And this is how I went from selling meth on the street to getting out of jail and actually being the top salesman for Microsoft. And by the way, I used all of the skills that I learned selling drugs to do that. And it helps people to walk through how they actually have a lot they can contribute to society, and it's very possible to move on to bigger and better things. What we typically see from that is some really awesome things. So as far as data goes, we've been doing pre and post metrics for every single participant that goes through our program. This data in particular is from a study we did with 2,300 people, and we did it randomly throughout our jails and prisons. And we watched them over a period of 3 years. So over 3 years, we found that of participants who had a violent misconduct record before enrolling in Hustle 2.0, 91% avoided any further violent misconduct. We found that 93% of graduates avoided all further misconduct. And of graduates who started Hustle 2.0 in restrictive housing, 82% did not return to restrictive housing. And this is one of my favorite ones. And I appreciate, Damien, that you shared a little bit about this, because we're able to see those guys who are your maximum security people, the ones who are causing the most problems, turn around and they stop committing violent acts, and they stop. And they're also, we get letters sometimes from people saying that there's this one guy at the jail and he's cursed me out every single day for the last year. And now he says thank you to me every morning. And yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. So that's something that I really appreciate. Anyways, so that's the general overview of kind of what we are. And now I'm just going to go through, how does the program work? What does it look like? And talk a little bit about a free gift that I'm going to be sending to all of you if you'd like it. And if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat and I'll make sure to go over them at the end. So as far as other parts of the program, we have a goal of helping people fill their time with as much productive things as possible, because everything we do is in cell. So instead of having 1 hour where you're sitting in a class and you have 23 hours of the day other than that, we want people to have other things to do all day long so that they're able to spend time making recipes out of commissary items or doing interactive content. We have chess strategies, we have in-cell workouts that you can do, and we've got fun characters and things to keep it engaging, but also art challenges that some people report that they spent more than 5 hours on this one alone. As far as who we serve, we also have a goal of making it possible to serve everybody, because we know that some programs don't involve people who've committed certain types of crimes or people of certain classifications because of security issues. So we made the goal to make it possible to give this to everybody. So no matter if it's the person who causes the most issues at your jail or somebody who is just there because of something a little bit more minor, we're able to serve them. Now, as far as what the program looks like, we have two major parts of the program. One is called Transform Your Hustle, and one is the University Collection. Now, Transform Your Hustle is 2 weeks long, and it takes 72 pages to get through. This one is designed for your populations who have a little bit quicker turnaround. And the idea is, let's get them to start changing their thoughts as soon as they're incarcerated, even if they're only there for a few weeks. So this one allows you to give programming to as many people as possible. And the University Collection is our programming that's designed to be for more of your long-term individuals and to be flexible. So it's made up of 3 workbooks that are each 10 courses, and they each take usually about 10 weeks to complete. So if you have somebody who wants to go through the program, they can either go through it for a few weeks or all the way up to maybe 6 to 9 months. And some people, this helps keep them busy for an entire year of their incarcerated stay. Now, if you do go through the entire program, we are accredited with Southern Utah University. So you'll get an MBA program certificate if you pass with honors, and 3 college credits, and there's potentially some scholarship opportunity available as well if you apply to their online program after you're released. As far as how running the program works, we have 2 different options. We actually just got this available digitally through Adobo, if you have Adobo running on your tablets. So we have options for that. Or we have the paper program, which all you have to do, and going back to what I said earlier at the beginning, is our goal is to just make this easy to run. All you have to do is we give you workbooks, and then whenever anybody finishes it, they kind of complete it on their own pace. They hand the homework back to you. You scan it, upload it to our website, and you can do up to 30 files at a time. It usually takes people, we say 30 minutes to an hour once a week. Just set that aside for your Hustle 2.0 time to turn in your homework. And if you are running Hustle 2.0, maybe throw in the chat real quick, hey, this is how much time I spend on this, or maybe type in, something about, hey, this is how running the program is for me. That way people know, is this easy, or how much time does this take, and things like that. So yeah, that's the main gist of it. We also provide reports regularly, and this maybe goes a little bit back to what we were talking about with Alex, is that it's really important to have data on if things are working. So we're constantly reporting to you on a weekly basis. These are the people who are involved in the program. And monthly, this is everybody who's gone through your program. That way you have that information. And then quarterly, this is effectiveness. This is the mindset changes. These are the behavior changes that we're seeing at your jail. And this is changes in academic performance. So to sum all of that up, the reason we're kind of different is that we're scalable to your facility. You can give this to as many people as you need. We're easy to implement, and we give real results that we report to you on. And we serve people that other people won't. We don't take any classroom space. We can occupy people from 2 weeks all the way up to a year. It's college accredited, and people love it. So that's all I'll share with you guys. If you are curious about pricing, I'll just talk about that real quick. That way, you know, if it even makes sense for your facility, and we could talk later if it's something that you want to talk about. But we do have those two parts of the program. The university collection is made up of 3 different workbooks that are $55 each per person. And these are designed for your long-term stay people. So most people have that, you know, just for some of the people that you know are going to be here for a few months up to a year. And then Transform Your Hustle is $15.99. And we give that to as many people as you'd like to serve. So that's the information I have today. And I just want to let you all know that we're offering you a free gift because of your involvement with JBBS. We're going to gift each of you 5 copies of Transform Your Hustle, which is that more jail specific program, which we're going to do completely free of charge. So if that is something of interest, I will leave my email up right here. It's alexd@hustle20.com. I'll also just type it in the chat real quick if that makes things easier. But just shoot me an email and say, hey, I was on the call today and I would love to get my 5 free copies, and then put the correct address for your jail in. If you don't, I'll like Google it, but you know, you never know if the right one's gonna come up. Yes, Michelle in the chat, you said, can it be done as a group? So that's a really good question. We have in every part of the program, there's group facilitated discussion questions. So like we'll have a full page of like 20 questions or so as a part of that program. Like we have one for Transform Your Hustle, and we have them throughout the rest of the university collection. So we see that you can do it as a group if you want to run it as a group, or you can have that be optional. And the cool part is we do pre and post metrics. So we ask everybody if they participated in it. And we find that 82% of our participants report that even have it being optional, they find a group to do those discussion questions with because they get engaged. And I'm sometimes when I hear the 82%, I'm like, there's got to be at least some guys that are lying about that because that it's optional and they don't have to. But we find that people are really doing it. So that's cool. And any other questions? And you can type them in the chat, or you can, you know, talk real quick if you're feeling antsy to say something.
Yeah, this is such a cool program. And I was so glad when we first learned about you, and the fact that this is available is just a really, it's just great. Not just that it's available, but that it's got proven results. And to me, I just think anytime you do something like this and you can actually show what a difference it's making, it's really an invaluable tool. And so I would encourage all of you who are not already doing Hustle 2.0 to look at this for your facilities and your clients. And what a great deal to get 5 free copies. That's very generous of you all. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Coco in the chat, we have Transform Your Hustle available in Spanish, which is the 2-week course. We don't have the entire program available yet, but if you have Spanish populations that are here more short term, that might be a good option for them. And it's the same price, the $15.99. Yeah, and thanks, Kelly. So yeah, I have my email there. I think I forgot to type it in the chat. So if any of you guys want free copies, you know, there's no strings attached. I would love to, you know, if you are interested in learning more, you know, I'll shoot you an email and say, hey, along with those copies, do you want to talk a little bit more? But we can go for that. Yeah, and if you want to reach out to anyone, Damien has been running this for a while. He just put his email in the chat. He can give you ideas on how it works. You can, you know, you can talk to Damien and, you know, kind of see how it's been going there. We are also running with Pueblo County, who has said a couple things on the call, as well as, I'm trying to think if there's Delta County. I don't know if you're on the call, but if either of you have anything to say, you can, you know, chime in if you'd like, so you don't have to as well.
Awesome. Well, please reach out to Alex and take advantage of this great program. So thank you for joining us today. Really, really appreciate all that you presented, and just what a cool program. So thank you for doing this.
Okay, I will stop sharing my screen, and I know I'm the last thing that you guys have before lunch, so I don't want to. I'm going to go ahead and just stop talking.
Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to bring up a couple more things. In regards to your budgets, please ensure that now that we're into this new fiscal year, we really need to ensure that you all are spending your money in a timely fashion. You all have your budgets for the year. We really are, it's imperative that you stay on track to spend all of your funds this year. If you run into issues, if you have questions about things you could spend your money on or not, please reach out to Becky and I at any time. We really are trying to get away from the kind of last minute spend down, which unfortunately kind of happened with a few facilities this year. That's just really not something that we can do. These funds need to be being spent every month. If you're obviously things come up, and but I would also encourage you to have kind of backup plans, contingency plans for funding or for spending. If you do have somebody leave, or, I really can't stress that enough. If we revert money, that makes it look like we don't need the money, and they will take it from us. So, and additionally, there are other jails that could use these funds. So please be mindful of that. Like, we're going to really have to be very strict about that this year. So if you all could make sure that your budgets are being spent in a timely fashion, we would very much appreciate that. So that being said, I don't have anything else for today. Alex, did you have anything else?
I did. I had one more thing, and it actually relates. So you sent an email out a couple of days ago about the mailing list for the monthly contract monitoring tool and the quarterly survey. So, Kelly sent that email out, but long story short, we've got a really massive list of people that are getting the monthly contract monitoring tool and the quarterly survey. So we'd really like it to just have one primary person, whoever's going to fill it out. And then if you need it, like a backup person. So at most we'd have like 2 people per facility. So anyway, I just wanted to remind you, Kelly sent that email. You can respond to her. She'll let me know. I'll update the list. We'll get it all done. But I just wanted to put that quick reminder, quick bug in your ear about making sure you have one designee and one backup. And then we sent out the questions. So, you can share the questions with whoever and farm out those different parts of the survey and the monthly contract monitoring tool, have people send it to you, and then just one person submits all that information together. So just a reminder on that. That was the last thing I had.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Okay. Well, that being said, that is all we have for you all today. Appreciate everybody hopping on, and it's always good to see you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. It's hard to believe that we're already approaching the end of July, but here we are. So our next quarterly will be in October, but we will have a roundtable and or a learning community and or a JBBS office hours prior to that time. So again, thanks everybody for joining us, and we hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, and I'll stick around if anybody has questions. I've seen a few in the chat, so I'll stick around for a little while, and you feel free to stick around and ask me questions if needed.
Cool.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, just wanted to say thanks for the chance to present. I really appreciate it.
You bet, Alex. Thank you so much. Good to
Absolutely.
see you.
Okay.
Do you want me to go ahead, Alex?
Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
Kelly. Okay, so this quarterly survey includes Bent, who I'm not now contracted with, so that's going to be an issue.
Okay, but it's Q4.
I get it, but
Okay.
They don't
Yeah.
really want me in their business, but I'm
If-
going to send it. I have the data, so
I
whatever.
was gonna say, if you can't, then just report on the ones you can. It's not.
Yeah, so
It's
I'm
kind of.
gonna call that the catchment. Is that okay? Because it was still the catchment up to June 30th, even
Yeah.
though when I
Yeah. Yeah.
see the
Mhm.
list
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the county. Okay, so then when we go to the new one, it'll be, say this time next year, it'll be, I don't know, what do I have? 5 or 6?
5.
It'll be
Yeah.
5 different ones, and the same way with the monthly monitoring too. I'm okay with that. 5 different
Okay.
ones, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way it's gonna
And
be.
I'm okay with that. I figured that's how it was going to be. So I just wanted to make sure. And I think that'll be better per jail so that you all
Right.
know.
Right.
The other thing is, and it was brought up in the meeting today, and this happens all the time. Dee will make the referral. I'm sorry, I know you guys want to go. Dee will make
Oh,
the
it's-
referral on one date, say in June, and then the counselors get there at the end of the June, they get there in July, the guy's already gone, no intake was done, no gain was done, so we had an admission and they either discharged, and so there's no match up with the admission and the gain. Sometimes I write in there and said, some of these people discharged, and I don't know what to do about that.
Well, what you could do is you could hold off on the admission
And bring it, okay.
until you guarantee, like, until the counselors come in. Once the counselors come in, then you enter an admission date. And if they don't get a chance to see them, you still entered them in as a client and started a referral. And you just keep that open. And if they get released before anything happens, then you just click release before we could see them, and then you can close it out. And then the system will show them as referred but not admitted. And so that's what I would probably do. I just hold off on that admission date until you know that they've actually seen somebody gotten those services, and then boom, you enter the admission date and go from there, kind of thing. That
Yeah,
should
well, I
save
have
some.
not been doing that. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's what I would
so it's
do.
gonna be mismatched for a little bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
That's
so I'm transition tracking them
that's a,
because they have them down as a mission. I know I can go in there and say, they were never admitted.
yeah, yeah. You
So I
can go
can
and
go in and
yeah,
change
yeah.
them.
You can
Okay.
change. You can pull the admission date out basically when you do
Okay.
that, and then just click the no, decline service or
Okay.
ineligible or released early, and then that'll move them from the admitted category into the referred but not admitted category, and then
Okay.
transition tracking will go away.
Okay.
If you want to do transition tracking on some of them, then go ahead, go ahead. Then you'd enter in an admission date, and then then the transition tracking will open. If you don't have an admission date, then transition tracking won't open, and you don't have to worry.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. One of these people, they refused twice and they were admitted 1 month. So that really changed recidivism. They came back in.
Right.
So
Yeah, and that'll
that
happen.
doesn't
Sometimes
help
you have
us at all.
somebody does it a couple of times. They're like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And then finally they come back and they're like, all right, I'll do it. And so, it'll show up. They'll still show up in our system as having 3
Okay.
different referrals because it's
Okay.
all under the one client name. They just will
Okay.
have separate referrals, and that's fine. That'll
Okay.
be fine. In theory, right? If we're doing things right, then after they are admitted to the program, they get something after that active referral when they are admitted, they'll have fewer referrals in the future, and that will be a good thing because that'll
Okay.
show a lower recidivism. It'll say, okay, the first 2 times they declined it, and they came back 3 times after that. But then after they were admitted, they haven't come back since then, or they only came back once. So that'll show up in the system as, hey, when they weren't admitted, they were coming back more often than after they got admitted. So in theory, that's a good thing, right?
Right.
How it
Right.
works. It may not, you're right, it may not, but in theory, that's a positive thing for sure.
And then Kelly, I asked, thank you so much. Kelly, I know I'm probably not
Could you
supposed
stop
to.
Sorry, Nancy, hold on one
Oh
sec.
yeah,
Alex,
stop
can you stop
recording.
the recording?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially on this question.